All right, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Bums podcast. And it is a special day today because I got both of the bums back in here with me. Adam, AJ, thank y'all for joining me.
Yeah, dude, we were just talking a little bit ago how long it had been since all three of us had been able to do this together, and I'm gonna take the apologies for that. And but I got to say, it's good to be back with both of you.
We are somewhat happy that you're back.
Yeah, definitely mixed feelings.
No, we're really happy you're back, and we have a lot of ball to talk about. Definitely a lot of ball. We got a lot of stuff happening. There's 4 teams left in this NBA playoffs, and unfortunately, none of the 4 are the Spurs. Otherwise, we'd probably win the championship, without a doubt.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, we had a couple of big game 7s last night, and now we know Eastern Western Conference matchups. So let's just dive right on in. So we saw, like I said, 2 game 7s last night. Let's talk Eastern Conference first. So we saw the Knicks and the Pacers wrap things up. Adam, I want to ask you a question right out of the gate. Do you feel like it was the Pacers winning, or was it the Knicks falling apart?
you know, I think whenever you look at it, it's obviously got to be a combination of both. But I think in terms of Game 7, I think you have to give credit to the Pacers and say that it was more about them going out and winning it. I'm sure y'all have seen the statistics, but it was the highest field goal percentage for a postseason game in the history of the NBA at 67%.
Good God.
The second highest was 61%. No one had ever been above 61. And at one point late in the first half, they were shooting 81% from the field. So it's like, yes, the Knicks have been banged up all series, but they had pretty much everyone. OG missed the majority of that series. They had everyone that they had been playing with the whole series in that game, and the Pacers just came out early and took it to them. So I feel like it'd be disrespectful to say it was like the Knicks blowing it. I really think the Pacers went out and earned it. I think that if obviously everyone for the Knicks had been healthy the whole series, I don't know if it had come to that, but in terms of that Game 7, like they went out and took it, and to say anything otherwise, it would be like disrespectful to them, I feel like.
Yeah. Ultimately, I'm kind of in the same camp with you. I mean, sure, like Jalen Brunson fractured his wrist. OG played 4 minutes and looked like he was hobbling on that hamstring. Hartenstein, DiVincenzo, Hart, all of those guys look pretty banged up as well. And when you just accompany the fact that they, of course, no Mitchell Robinson, no Randall, all that stuff, no Bogdanovich as well.
Yeah,
there's just so much that they're missing. But ultimately, you can't argue with Indiana shooting 54% from beyond the arc, and so much of their success is happening with a well-distributed offense. Like they have 7 guys this postseason averaging double figures. Like that is,
I like that you pointed that out.
Oh yeah, well,
because I had written that down too.
It's crazy that we're seeing an offense that's just able to be so dynamic, and you don't really know who's going to attack you. So it's really interesting to see, even with Halliburton not playing as well as I thought he would, they're still really achieving a very, very efficient offense.
And out of like their top 9 guys, to your point, there were 7 guys that averaged 10 points a game or more. Out of their top 9 guys, Ben Shepherd was the only one that shot under 50% from the field. So it's insane to have that much efficiency, to shoot that well from 3. So it's funny because if you look back on the beginning of the year, I don't think anyone would have predicted this Final Four, and the Pacers are certainly one of them. To have both from the West, the Mavs and the T-Wolves, and then the Pacers. Obviously, everyone predicted the Celtics, but it's, hats off to them. It's certainly been a weird postseason. It's weird to see them in the Final Four, but they play an exciting brand of basketball, and I'm excited to see what they do against the Celtics.
Absolutely. How are you feeling about that Game 7, AJ?
I mean, I think the Pacers go as TJ McConnell goes. That's just how it is. That dude was everywhere. I mean, the 50-50 balls he was getting, he was making shots, he was taking to the rack. I mean, it was impressive to watch him just because he's the spark, and he's the guy that's going to get them over a hump or through, maybe the other team goes on a run. He's able to break that run. He just seems like the overall guy who can really lead a team just as a fire, lead a team to a championship.
Their depth, and he's like the biggest part of that,
Oh,
right?
for sure. And he kind of keeps everyone calm too. So, and he's also not afraid to get in people's faces. So he has kind of he's kind of like Bobby Portis back when Milwaukee won their championship. Like, no matter what, Bobby Portis was a part of the game, and he was very instrumental in that. So if the Pacers end up going to the finals, it's because TJ did something great. I do feel like after talking with Daniel, just the Knicks were so banged up that you got to give the Pacers credit for sure. They shot lights out. Even Michael Wilbon at halftime was like, they're not going to continue this pace, and they did. It was just pretty impressive. But I just think that the Knicks. I said the same thing about the Nuggets last year. As I want to see the Knicks fully healthy going into the playoffs at some point here in the next 2 to 3 years. I want to see what they can do. I want to see if their talent is going to lead them to a finals appearance again since '99 when we beat them. Nice hat, Rob. So I'm really curious to see what's going to happen in the future and how the Knicks come back. You know how New York fans are. Everything's half empty. So they're like, fire the coach, get rid of everybody. But at the same time, you look on the face of it, you lost your best player halfway through the game. You didn't have your starting power forward, your 20 and 10 guy. There was a lot of missing pieces in that. And Josh Hart was hurt with abdominal strain the entire time. So, let's see what they can do. I hope they keep the team and the core together, maybe add a few more pieces and go from there. But for the most part, I'm going to say that it's more the Knicks injuries than anything. Personally, that's how I feel.
Do y'all think like all of the high minute totals that they were forced to play ended up being like a factor in them somewhat running out of steam in Game 7, or do you think it was just the injuries, or do you think that the high workload led to that?
I mean, I think that it's certainly an interesting talking point, and you can't ignore that. But I think that, having talked to like AJ was saying, having talked to Daniel last week, it sort of gave me some new perspective on it. Because a lot of their injuries were kind of just happenstance injuries where it was like, Julius Randle kind of fell on somebody, and Mitchell Robinson's really wasn't like a fatigue based injury either. The only one that you could really point to was OG Anunoby in his hamstring, kind of, that's a stress related injury for the most part when your hamstring's overworked. So I think, a lot of those injuries were unfortunate. So I don't see why New York isn't thinking, hey, let's run it back. We'll have a healthy Julius Randle. We were already competing to be an Eastern Conference Finals team. Why not see what our chances are like next year?
And the city of New York will want that. This has been the most beloved Knicks team since 1999 or even further back, really. I think Jalen Brunson's turned into such a superstar playing for them. He's such a likable guy. Like at no point in my life have I ever like watched a Knicks game or a team and like rooted for them, but I was pulling for them. The way that they play for each other. That whole Villanova core with DiVincenzo, Hart, and Brunson, they're a really likable team, and it's so clear. It's so clear that the fan base loves them. Like I love the fact that they each got to have their little moment of glory going out. The timeouts that were called just to kind of like give them the round of applause. And it's good to see, because Knicks fans can be ruthless, and I'm glad that they got their moment to get appreciation shown their way, because like they deserve that.
I will say there's nothing more fun to watch on TV than a hot garden. When the garden's on fire, it's so much fun to watch because everyone's out of their seats. It's loud. You can barely hear the announcers when they're talking. That's one of my favorite things to do is see the garden hyped up for a Knicks game, because that everyone's standing up and having a great time, and they're all celebrities, and you're like, holy crap, Spike Lee is still around.
Yeah, the NBA is just better when the NBA is just better when the Knicks are there. Rob, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Whenever you look back at the Knicks season, do you view it as a success?
I view it as a very, very slight success, because I think that you found out who more of your long-term core is going to be when you saw guys like Josh Hart step up. You saw DiVincenzo, he had 39 points in that game 7. It's like these are guys that you can see be long-term assets to your team. So I think there was a positive, definitely, but at the end of the day, they were a second round exit last year. So it's like you didn't really expand upon your team in terms of a success, from a success standpoint. You didn't achieve anything more than what you did already.
And you had a home game against the Pacers, who might now be viewed as one of the two, in my opinion, weakest teams to even make an Eastern Conference or a conference final in general in the last decade. And you were a home game with one of the biggest home court advantages away from I think, making your season a wild success. I don't think anyone would have expected them to beat Boston, but if you at least make it there with how banged up you were, that's like a crazy successful season. But I think what they did was the status quo for them, really. Yeah. They beat a Sixers team that I think they would have struggled to beat with a healthy Embiid. Embiid clearly wasn't healthy. Granted, they weren't either, but I'll be honest, we've all seen Julius Randle in the playoffs. I don't know how much better he makes a team in the playoffs. It certainly would give them another scoring option, but he's sometimes a bonehead in a way that like Karl Anthony Towns used to be somewhat of a bonehead, and lack of effort sometimes. So I'm wondering if he's a piece that they move on from. They're going to have some big question marks this offseason.
Let me challenge you on that, Adam. So what if Julius Randle just needed something to play for? I mean, just some having the momentum and the I guess energy of the team could propel a bad player or a decent player to be great. So I think having success and seeing success and being on the floor with it, I think I don't agree with your statement there. I think he actually helps them and they're able to do more. And I really think that they missed him in the Pacers game.
Well, he certainly has the talent to where if he's putting it all together, he's going to help a team, right? He's not a bad basketball player. He's a good player and can put up 20 and 10 pretty nightly. To your point of maybe he needed something to play for, you could compare him maybe to Karl Anthony Towns, who was always on, kind of bad teams and seemed to always get in his way and make dumb fouls, and how he has a guy like Anthony Edwards now who's holding him accountable, and he's kind of taking his game to the next level. But ultimately, I think if you're a true gamer, you shouldn't need someone else to get you to run back on defense and not take bad shots. And I don't know. I've never been a Julius Randle fan. I would be more interested. I'd be more interested in them somehow using him to go attain a Bridges and get more Villanova players together. I think he'd be a good stretch for, and they're about to have to pay OG big time money, which is going to be crazy, and it's going to cap what they can do a little bit. But either way, that's true. Love that Knicks team, and I've never said that in my whole life. Really, all three of the Villanova guys, they kill it. They play their asses off, and I got to enjoy watching them play, and a little disappointed they're not playing the Celtics, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little disappointed that they're not going to be there as well, but I think that the Pacers deserve to be there, even though a lot of people have been saying that they had the cushiest ride to the Eastern Conference Finals in one of them in NBA history. It's tough to disagree with that, but they are there
too, though.
Yes, so did the Celtics. I think.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about the Celtics for a second. Actually,
I mean the Celtics. Well, honestly, both teams in general. The East outside of the Celtics has been weak. So any team you're playing outside of the Celtics has either been injured or just not at their full strength in this postseason. So it's been, I'm not really sold on a lot of the teams from the East in general. I think it's the West to lose this year. But at the same time, let's not fully take credit away from the good play of Indiana. I think it's crazy that how much Siakam has stepped up. He's essentially averaging 21 and 8 on good efficiency, playing good defense, and is really the go-to guy. Is not only slashing, taking mid-range shots, but he's just really looked like, hey, I've been there, I've done that. I know what success looks like in the postseason. Just let me handle it a little bit. And honestly, I'm kind of really impressed by that to see him step up in that manner.
And only in half a season too. Like we're gonna get to this here in a second, but the trades at the trade deadline definitely propelled some of these teams, and you can clearly see that now. I mean, having Siakam there, dude, like it looks like Halliburton can just kind of relax and play the game, just knowing that there's a guy there that he can depend on.
Yeah, I mean, he's been the 1A on that
Yeah.
team for sure. I feel like they're playing through him more, but I think if they're going to give the Celtics any type of run, Halliburton's going to have to be more aggressive. It is nice that they have so much depth, and I think that there's different guys that they can go to score. But yeah, Siakam, there's no way they'd be where they are without him. And just for a team like the Pacers to make it back to an Eastern Conference Finals, I think that trade's already paying dividends. And Siakam's another guy that's about to get a payday.
Yes.
Right? Like I imagine he'll get a max contract. If OG gets a max contract, I'm going to throw up in my mouth a little bit. He's a good player, but he's not a max contract player. He's like just one of a really, really good 3-and-D guy.
Right.
And he's going to demand 40 million plus, and it's going to be kind of
No. I think that he's every bit worth 25 million. But I think, if you're paying him more than that, that's ridiculous.
Oh, he's going to get more than that.
I know.
There's not a doubt about it.
I know.
Especially after what they just traded for him, they're going to not go back on what they
right.
More or less go back on the trade that they just made by not rewarding him with some type of big contract, even though he wasn't healthy and
right.
really didn't do a whole much offensively playing. He used to sit in the corner quite a bit, and he did hit some shots.
But they didn't bring him to New York for offense.
No, they did not. They brought him to play, which he did not do.
Right.
Just kidding.
I
honestly, getting rid of RJ Barrett in general, like they could have traded RJ Barrett for like AJ, and I think that the Knicks would be getting better. That's how much I dislike RJ Barrett.
Damn.
Yeah, he's just not a good basketball player.
I don't think my right knee could hold up in an NBA game.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. But yeah, so I mean, obviously that was a move that really benefited them when we're talking about Siakam over to the Pacers. I want to give a quick little shout out. He has the highest assist to turnover ratio in for Indiana for the playoffs. Like he is
who Pascal?
Siakam. Yeah.
Wow.
He's not only, scoring the ball, but he's distributing and doing it while not turning it over, which is huge. So whenever you're playing that efficient, it's going to lead to some success. So, and
especially considering they have a guy in their team that was, I think, led the league in assist to turnover ratio during the regular season. I'd have to fact check that, but I imagine he did with some of the lines he put up this year.
I'm really curious to know what this Pacer team. I don't think they would be here, first of all, without having. They need to call the Phoenix Suns and say thank you so much for matching DeAndre Ayton's contract, so he didn't come here, because we would not be where we are today if DeAndre Ayton was on our team. So thank you for doing that bonehead move, because clearly it benefited us and not you guys. So thank you.
Yeah, I think Miles Turner played well, right?
Yeah,
he played super aggressive in Game 6, especially, and put on a performance, and his ability to step out and shoot and do what he did defensively. Like, I think it was impressive to see Miles Turner do that.
Yeah, he's anchoring their interior defense while shooting over 45% from beyond the arc for the playoffs. It's like that's elite right there. That's tough to argue with, but yeah, I think the Pacers are about to be tested. They're about to run into the brick wall of the East.
Yeah, so I know we're obviously gonna get to talking about the Western Conference Game 7 that Georges was, but I think we should go right into talking about how we think that they match up against the Celtics, and do we give them any type of chance against the Celtics in this series?
I mean, if we're really breaking it down, I don't think that they have much of a chance, but there's a couple of scenarios where I could see them being able to put up a really good fight. And one of them is if Porzingis stays out. And because if Porzingis is hurt for the entire series, then Boston's interior defense takes a massive, massive hit. That's first and foremost. That's got to be that absolutely has to happen. And another thing is Drew Holiday has been playing really bad this postseason. You can't have your best perimeter defender and a guy that you brought in expecting to play an all-star level play just really commanding that much of the ball and playing poorly. So I think if Porzingis isn't there defensively, Drew Holiday isn't performing the way he usually does, then they could find themselves in some situations where they're going to have to shoot their way out of a game. And I think we've seen when that goes poorly. We've seen,
And we've also seen whenever another team shoots super well against them, how they can give up a game at home. And if Porzingis, to your point, misses the first 2 or 3 games, let's say he misses the first 3 games of that series, and the Pacers, much like the Cavs, much like the Heat, were able to steal one on the road. If they steal one and then somehow win Game 3, and the Celtics are all of a sudden down 2-1, it's anybody's series at that point, right? Like we've seen the Celtics, a team close to as good as this team, right? I think Drew Holiday certainly makes them better whenever they had Smart and Porzingis, but Porzingis is out right now.
yeah,
And they lost to the Heat. And I'm not saying the Pacers or the Heat, they're obviously a very different makeup of a ball team, but they play fast, they're deep. Without Porzingis, the Celtics have very little front court help at all. I mean, I'm not liking who they're having to go to play the 5, and that's one point that I had written down is like Siakam and Miles Turner. I think are going to give them trouble. I genuinely think they're going to give them trouble without Porzingis being there, and it's going to be interesting. And the Pacers just have quite a bit of guys that can go at them. To AJ's point earlier, TJ McConnell's it can be a handful. I think you're going to have Nesmith on like a revenge tour, trying to show it to the Celtics who he couldn't get playing time for. And I don't think anyone here, if they were in Vegas, is going to put their house on the Pacers to win it all. But the Celtics have not been tested this postseason,
nope.
And they haven't. They've won both of their series in 5, but I'll be honest, I don't think they've looked amazing. I really don't.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
really
wouldn't.
don't.
I
The
wouldn't
Heat
bet
were-
on the. I would definitely wouldn't bet on the Pacers, but I would bet on the Pacers to cover every time because I think it's going to be a close game. I do believe that it's going to determine the game. The series is going to decide on how the Pacers cover Derek White. If they can slow down or stop Derek White to some extent, and he doesn't go for like a 39-point game or a 40-point game, whatever, they keep him like in the teens. I think that points to the Pacers. That's how they win. But it's gonna be tough.
Yeah. Oh, it's absolutely going to be tough. I was kind of going through the matchup. I was looking at Drew Holiday on Halliburton. That makes sense to me. Derek White's going to be guarded by Andrew Nembhard. I think he's going to just munch. I think Derek White's going to have a great series. Naismith guarding Brown. I think Brown's going to be able to have himself a good time as well. Tatum and Siakam, I don't know who else would be matched up on each other other than them. And then lastly, Horford on Miles Turner. Like I don't see how the Pacers really withstand what's being thrown at them when the only real matchup they have clear advantage is Turner Horford.
And one of the biggest things I think Pascal Siakam's gonna have to be huge, right? He's bigger than Tatum and he's bigger than Brown, and I think he's gonna have to really go at them, and I think he's going to. I think he's gonna put up some insane lines. One thing that I don't like for the Pacers is the fact that TJ McConnell, Halliburton, those are two of the guys that are obviously two of their most important pieces this offseason, and they're going to be guarded by two of the better perimeter guards in the NBA. The one thing I'll say is I do think that the Celtics are going to have to play their starters a lot of minutes. I really do. I think that the Pacers' 6th, 7th, 8th man are superior to what the Celtics have to offer, and I think that they're going to have to stagger their minutes interestingly to not lose a little bit of a potential lead that they may have whenever the Pacers put in their bench guys. I just think they're deeper. To go back to what we said earlier, 8 guys that average over 10 points a game.
Or two things. One, that McConnell Pritchard matchup, I cannot wait for. Super excited about it. And then also, we've seen Jaylen Brown disappear in big moments and in late in playoff series. Like, what are we going to get from Jaylen Brown? Like, I'm assuming we're going to get greatness, but we've seen him flop a few times. So, I mean, I'm curious to know what we get from Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, I mean, I think Naismith is probably most likely going to be defending him, if not him, at Tatum, or he's going to be locked on Tatum sometimes. But I think that it's not going to be a Jaylen Brown series. I think that they're going to probably play through Tatum, and it's been looking like Derek White a lot. Like he's been so much of their offense, even more so than Jaylen Brown at times. So I think. Yeah, he may end up being a third option.
The nice thing is like they don't need everyone to come in and play well on any given night.
No.
Tatum can have an off game if White and Brown step up and vice versa. And that's helpful whenever you have, at least when Porzingis comes back, 4 different guys that can give you 30 every night. I don't think Drew's really on that scoring level anymore, but the other 4 certainly are. And that's why they won so many games this regular season. And I, as much as I like the Pacers, I think that they'll get 2 games out of this series at most in my mind. I do think that they're going to have some momentum coming off of this Knicks series where they were really having to bust their tail. And I just don't think the Celtics at any point in this postseason have felt like pressured.
No,
they played a I don't want to say a depleted Cavs team, but a Cavs team without their best or second best defender. They played a Miami team without Jimmy. So they've really had a super easy road, and I'm excited to see them get challenged. I think they're going to make it to the finals, and certainly excited to see them at that point and where they're really going to get tested.
But yeah, I just think Boston's they're just looking too polished. I think they have, if everything is clicking for them, they just look too deadly. And I think so much of it, like we were saying earlier, hinges on Porzingis being healthy. But yeah, and having been there, let's not just discredit having been to a finals, having been to multiple Eastern Conference finals. Like this team, this core of this team knows what this moment feels like way more than Indiana.
Having
does.
Drew Holiday, who's won a championship, being the second best player. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They just need to get Porzingis back quick.
That's a great transition into Oklahoma City, who last night did not show poise as people who've already been there before. I mean,
I'm disappointed in Oklahoma City in a big way.
I mean, I don't know what SGA was doing there, but whatever.
I
don't think it's on SGA.
In OKC at all. I'm not disappointed in OKC at all. What did you expect from this team that's one of the youngest in the league? Yeah.
Can I tell you why I'm disappointed?
Yeah.
The reason I'm not disappointed in the players that played. Okay. And Josh Giddey obviously flopped, and I think a lot of people were probably clapping seeing him suck. The players that they had in their roster, I think, played well and they played hard, and SGA balled out and showed everyone why he's an MVP candidate. The reason I'm upset at Oklahoma City is because their front office has, I think, the second or first most first round picks through 2030. And they sat on their thumbs and didn't make a move at the deadline other than go get Gordon Hayward, who they didn't play. Right. They saw the team that they just beat them in the Mavs go get Daniel Gafford, who they needed. And they had more assets to go get. Their only center on their team is a rookie, let's say it, Chet Holmgren, who weighs 200 pounds. And then they have Jalen Williams 2.0 playing the backup center, and they were getting beat on the glass. Mm-hmm. And I think you almost get the sense that they were just content being there. And they're like, let's just see what we have in our group, and let's see how they do whenever they have all these picks, and they could have gone for it this year, especially with, you look at the Nuggets just beat the reigning champs. The East is weak. Like, they could have won a championship this year if they had made a bigger move, and they went and got Gordon Hayward, who they didn't even play. So that's why I'm disappointed in them. I'm not disappointed for how they played. I love SGA. I think that he needed more help. They shot like shit, and they need more shooters, but I'm disappointed that they didn't make a move at the deadline, and they watch a team that just beat them make 2 moves that killed them. Period.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think when you frame it from that perspective, I see more of what you mean, but I also think they're in a situation where they have such a young, dynamic core that I don't think that they were ever going to make a move where they were going to throw all their chips into the table right now, because I think that would be more of a gamble rather than playing the long game, figuring out if we can get the right guy in and build the team like most small market teams kind of have to do. So I think I'm cool with what they did and how they achieved. How they kind of achieved their success this season, because I think that it's such a positive foundation for the future, and they still have so many assets to go get a huge name guy. And so like they're finishing number one in the West and still having all the assets in the world is a great place to be.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's no arguing that. They're in a great spot.
Unfortunately, Oklahoma City is not a great place to be. But what I was going to say also is you saw their youth at the very end of the game. Like they're going to relive those last like 2 minutes of the game, and we're going to look back on it 3-4 years from now, like we do when Barkley baptized David Robinson. Whenever Shaq and Kobe were going through their stuff, and then they finally got over the hump. So we're going to go back and watch this in 2 or 3 years and say, they had to go through that in order to get to where they're at now. I mean, case in point with the Celtics at the moment, they had to go through what they had to go through in order to get to where they're at now. So I think in a few years we'll look back on it.
They're certainly going to be a top 3 team on everyone's board going in the West going into next year, right? It's going to be them. It's going to be Minnesota. Yeah. It's going to be us. It's going to be them, Minnesota, and it's going to be Denver still again, assuming, I think Denver might do something this offseason. But yeah, no, they're in, good season for them overall. It's clear that they lacked shooting, and they need to surround SGA with more shooting, because there was too many times where they got guys in the corner that just couldn't make shots, whether it be Dort, whether it be Case and Wallace. Did I just say that right?
I like Isaiah Joe. He can hit from corner, from free throw line, extended, top of the key. He's a really great floor extender for them. But yeah, they need more guys that hit shots and not just finish around the rim, because SGA can slash and he can shoulder bump, get to the cup, and he's one of the best foul getters in the league. And when you look at Jalen Williams has the ability to slash, get to the cups, and Chet Holmgren can do the same. And it's I just think that I agree with that wholeheartedly. They need more shot makers.
One thing that I heard Bill Simmons say on his podcast with Ryan Russillo the other day is that the Mavericks were moving the ball and they seemed to be getting good shots almost every possession. And Luka and Kyrie were able to trust Derrick Jones Jr. They were able to trust PJ Washington around them, where really Oklahoma City's only chance was just like give the ball to SGA and let him make a play. Yeah. And I think it was like really evident in the stretch of these games. And to AJ's point, like goes into show their youth and how they will mature and they'll continue to grow.
Yeah. SGA looked like DeMar DeRozan at times with his little midi jumper, like just, identical. You can put them side by side and probably see the same moves.
His change of pace is insane.
It's pretty wild. He's gonna be elite, and the Spurs and the Thunder are gonna have their matchups again here in the next few years. That's gonna definitely happen, and we're probably gonna win and end up winning the championship after that.
Please God, I can't take much of this any longer. Well, just watching these plays in general made me be like, golly, like how exciting does it look? How exciting would it be to be able to root for my own team in the playoffs again? It's been so tough as a Spurs fan.
We'll get to that in a second. We're very close though, but
it'll happen sooner rather than later.
But I said whenever we covered the trade stuff, I said that Dallas move with Gafford is going to pay dividends, and it sure as hell has. That dude is a monster on the glass, and they're going to need every bit of that if they're going to beat the Timberwolves, because he's going to be working hard. Lively's going to get welcome to the league for sure. He looks great though, so I'm curious to see how he continues to play, and with having guys like the superstardom that they have with Kyrie and Luka, it really allows you to kind of be yourself and be off in the distance. And obviously, like, they're going to scout you and stuff, but the main focus is going to be Luka. And if you just compliment them and compliment Kyrie And also, I'm sure Kyrie's having them do ayahuasca before the series and stuff, and they're going to come together and probably do stuff. But so that's, I think had that Gafford move was just so strong, and the PJ Washington one. Both those players have literally won games for the Mavs in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, PJ was huge. That was a massive deal for him.
Yeah, they've been absolutely huge. Have given them both Luka and Kyrie lob options for days, and I think just to reiterate, when you're happy, you're playing good basketball, and I can't remember Kyrie looking this happy in a long time, and it looks like
Red State.
I mean, who knows? Who knows? I think it's got to be it's got to be a combination of him playing with somebody that is not just as ball dominant, but as skilled and as just offensively potent as, I hate to say it, but LeBron. It's the best player that he's teamed up with since LeBron, and I feel like he knows in his mind that this is the player that is going to be able to get me over the hump if I am going to get over the hump for the rest of my career.
Are you saying Luka's better
than
Kevin
KD's
Durant?
shade?
Yes.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I agree.
I mean, he is at this point in his career.
I can't disagree with that. Yeah, you're right at this point for sure. But no, that's fair. I don't disagree with that. And you can tell that they're having fun playing together. And I mean, I'm really happy for the Dallas Maverick fans, because if they're also Cowboys fans, they're probably just like, where the hell has this team been?
Well, you're a Spurs fan, and for you to say those words makes me sick a little bit.
Well, I'm just happy for them, because I mean, if they have to be happy about something, all the other teams are doing fantastic, and the Cowboys still suck.
Is all your time living in Dallas rubbing off on you, and you're like closet rooting for the Mavericks just a little bit?
No. By the way, I went to a Spurs Mavs game last year when we were tanking for Wemby, and it is not a Spurs game. It is a social event. You're there to be seen. You're there to drink at the bar with overpriced $16 beer, and you're like, no one watched the game. Like, it wasn't even, I mean, it was not even really a real close game. It was close until like the third quarter, just when obviously Devin Vassell was getting hot. Pop was like, get your ass to the bench.
Yeah, no one watched it, right? Because they didn't know anybody on our team.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. But actually, I made a TikTok, and I was like, let's go Spurs. We suck. And we're down by like 40 at that point.
But like when Rob and I went to a Spurs Raptors game, and we literally lost by like 45. But to get back to the Mavericks real quick, through the first 5 games of this past series, Kyrie Irving was averaging 11 shot attempts per game. Which, like, if you're winning, that's great, but they're not going to continue winning unless they get more from him. And I do love that they're able to trust PJ Washington shooting in the corner. That Derek Jones Jr. can shoot as well.
I was about to say, we have not mentioned Derek Jones Jr. yet, and he's been their 4th leading scorer and an integral part of why they're able to just put up enough points to, kind of overcome some of their defensive inadequacies.
And it's been impressive. It's been impressive, and I think the law of averages would tell you that some of these guys are going to cool off, especially considering they're about to go up against the best defensive team in the NBA. So I don't expect them to continue to perform the same way they have, but I think that you're going to see Kyrie take a big step, and he's going to have to. Mm-hmm. Anthony Edwards just said after the last game, he's like, I got Kyrie. And it got me thinking, like, okay, I love that. I love that he's like wanting that challenge. But then who's Mike Conley going to guard?
Right.
Like, are they going to put Mike Conley and like PJ Washington in the corner? It could throw off like their size a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really think, if we're really breaking it down, I don't think Anthony Edwards is going to end up guarding Kyrie. I think if we're looking at the matchup, Conley on Kyrie, McDaniels is probably going to use his size to frustrate Luka. Yeah. I would say you don't want Anthony Edwards on either of them getting fouls, wasting his energy. You'd put him on Derek Jones Jr. That makes sense to me. And you'd have Cat on PJ, Gobert on Lively or Gafford, whoever's in the game. I think that makes sense to me.
I do think you're going to see Conley go and guard Derek Jones Jr. some. If they're having him and PJ Washington to play more of a, hey, sit in the corner role, that's one thing that I love about Edwards is that he's young and he's got legs for days, but he wants the challenge and he seems to be able to play these high minutes. Yeah, I really think he's gonna want that challenge. But it's nice with so many like perimeter defenders that they have. I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker is going to be a big piece for them in this series because he does have size. He's a good perimeter defender, and if he's shooting, I think it gives them more flexibility defensively, just to spare Conley in some of those instances. But yeah, that one name we haven't mentioned yet was Mike Conley, which he deserves. He deserves obviously a shout out, right?
Yeah, he's that floor general that you want in the playoffs. He's a guy that is he knows the moment. He's not going to turn the ball over. He's not going to try to make the moment about him. He's going to do what you need him to do to get the win.
Mm-hmm. And you saw how much they missed him whenever he didn't play in Game 6. And he hit some big shots. In Game 7 and was a huge part. I think Nikola Jokic, whenever he was describing the T-Wolves as a whole, mentioned Conley as the most underrated player in the NBA, mentioned the fact that they have 2 all-star caliber players, 2 potential top defensive players. Now that Karl-Anthony Towns somehow is a better defender than Rudy Gobert, which I obviously want to talk to y'all about now that we're on it.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and dive into that.
Don't talk about Cat that way.
Literally, Cat, Naz Reid, and that sometimes Jaden McDaniels were more effective guarding Jokic than Gobert.
Yep.
Crazy.
Why did Wemby not win Depoy?
Yes. All of the above.
You're starting your games with Cat on Jokic whenever you have the defensive player of the year on your team. It's blasphemous and it's bullshit. It's not a team award. I don't care about the Spurs record. You could look at how effective the Spurs were with Wemby on the court defensively versus not. I just don't see how. It just frustrated me watching that whenever they're playing a guy who's never really been known for his defense, or it's never been his knack, and Cat start games and end games on Jokic whenever you have the defensive player of the year right there getting absolutely cooked by him. It pissed me off. It really did.
Yeah.
Not to make this about the Spurs, but let's make it about them just a little bit.
Yeah.
We are the Baseline Bums podcast, so it is all Spurs all the time.
Go Spurs, go.
No, but that's a great point. We were texting about this in Game 7, and it was just like, what's happening? Like he's just, I didn't see it. If you're the defensive player of the year, you're gonna have to do defensive player of the year shit, and he just didn't do it. It looked like he kind of got small in the big moments, but I guess that's what Cat's for.
Rob, let me ask you something. Did you notice, like, there was a big rule change towards the end of the regular season and they were letting teams play more physically. Do you think that went into how Cat was able to play defense and how much, like, extra weight he has than Gobert and how much he could throw it around on Jokic more than maybe Gobert could?
I mean, I think a little bit, but I think it's more about Cat responding to criticism about his lack of defense, because I mean, I've been saying it for years, like, and I was even saying it when they got Gobert. I was like, man, they're going to be so slow on their rotations because Cat just can't play defense when he's outside of a few feet. And it seems like he was willing to go meet Jokic 10, 12 feet out from the basket to try to, add some physicality. So I think, I think it enabled him to play a little bit more physical, but I think it's more about him responding to people saying he's a poor defender and wanting to make some changes. Cause I think that's some shit that can get into your head as a player. If people are like, oh yeah, man, sure, he could put up 20 points, but he gets cooked.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting watching the T-Wolves transition with their 4-5 with the Cat Gobert combo, having them go against obviously Jokic and then the 4 being Aaron Gordon, who you almost want to shoot threes, going to them playing against a Mavericks team where the 4s can hit shots. And if that is going to space them out, obviously they have such like a good front court defensively. Backcourt both, but backcourt defensively to minimize, getting beat off the dribble to where you get behind on rotations and defender and 3-point shooters get open. But I think that is going to be interesting with, PJ Washington being such more of a threat, if it's going to impact almost like how the guards look and if they can get maybe a little bit out of rotation defensively against a team that could spread the floor a little bit more, especially because you look at Denver and you see how much in Game 7 their shooters struggled. I wrote a statistic down. Let me see if I can get it real quick.
Hurry up.
8 out of 28 outside of Jokic and Murray. The rest of the team shot a combined 8 for 28.
That's terrible.
Yeah, I mean,
At home.
MPJ was terrible all series. Caldwell Pope was hit or miss. You needed those guys to step up. You needed a big game from Aaron Gordon, and they didn't get that more often than not.
Yeah, those Murray big plays by Reggie Jackson go by the wayside whenever you don't have that kind of support.
Man, Reggie Jackson. They need to add you look at them and you see how much they missed Bruce Brown from last year. Mm-hmm. Like Christian Braun played well at times, but I thought that in Game 7 he was afraid to shoot. He played tentatively. And it seemed like almost the whole team was. Michael Porter Jr. is never afraid to shoot. With how bad he was shooting, he should have been. But they really didn't have anyone as a third option in that game to step up, and Murray and Jokic can only do so much. Mm-hmm. And they really missed, I thought, Bruce Brown and what he was able to bring to that team last year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jokic and Murray put up 69 points in that Game 7. Hey-yo. But at the same time, they need to do that really efficiently. And they shot sub 50%. And if the rest of your team isn't showing up, you need to be shooting more efficient than that if you're the Stars. And it's unfortunate that was the case. But, Minnesota looked like the more complete team. And I think that's why they are the favorites to get out of the West, ? So
I was about to ask that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was about to ask you all that. I'm thinking Minnesota in 7. I'm thinking that's what it looks like. I think the Mavs have enough combination of playoff experience with Kyrie and I think there is some things within the Jason Kidd Luka system that I'm still questioning if they can deal with that kind of defense and that amount of length, but I still think that they can win at least 2 games.
Yeah, AJ, I'm curious what you think. What do you think is going to happen in the series? How many games do you think it goes?
Well, we got to shout out Jason Kidd for coming a long way since Hey Bump Me, because that was one of the funniest things I've still ever seen in my entire life. Hey Bump Me, man, that was so funny. I'm so glad that we have cameras everywhere because we've not gotten that gold. If you get a chance, you should definitely look that up. And Rob, put the little video here. Bump me, and the water goes flying. Anyway, I don't know, man. Honestly, I've been thinking about this all day, and I have no idea who I'm going to pick because I don't know what it looks like on the court. Like, I'm really curious to see how Kyrie and Luka play against the length of Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. I mean, Kyrie's been known to lay the ball up in crazy kind of ways. So is he going to be able to get away with that with 2 7-footers there? Luka is going to have his hands full. I don't know how that's going to go. I'm sure Naz Reid might see him for a little bit more. Maybe in the fourth quarter, he'll get on him. But how healthy is Luka? Yeah, that too. He can barely walk.
Like, how healthy is Luka, and how is it going to be whenever two young bulls and Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards are guarding him? I just think that they have the right guys to throw at them. I think this series is going 6 games, and I think you're going to see a tired and a frustrated Luka. Doesn't mean he's not going to get his, but I think you're going to see a tired and a frustrated Luka as this series. Yeah, he's always pissed as this series go along because of how long those guys are, how much that they're going to bother him. Which is right. I really think if they're going to stand a chance in this series, you're going to have to see Kyrie average 30 a game, and like an efficient 30, not I'm shooting 30 times to get 30 points. But I think he's going to really have to step up because I think he's more likely to beat him off the dribble and break down a defense. And he is quicker, as good as Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards are defensively. He's quicker than both of them in terms of how he can get to the basket and break them down. So I think he's going to have to. But I think you're going to see a frustrated Luka. I think they're long. And I think if you can get past that level, like, you're going to get help, to AJ's point, from big dudes that are strong and physical and long. And I think it's going to be
long guys.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a frustrating series for the Mavs. And I do think that they can take it to 6 games just because they do have the high-end talent to at least win a couple. But I like most, I think, are picking Minnesota in this one.
I've been told by my Mavs friends that Max Kleba is going to have the series of his career and is going to propel them to the NBA Finals. So take that with a grain of salt.
He's gonna have to drop a 20-piece a game for that to mean anything.
They just need to like re-injure him if he's actually coming back, because less of him means more of PJ Washington and Lively, which they're going to need. They're not going to need Maxi Kleba at all. We'll put Robin before Maxi has
to play. I'm probably a better defender.
Yeah, better shooter for sure.
But yeah, I just think that there's way too much size, there's way too much length for Minnesota or for Dallas to really have a shot against Minnesota. And they're just looking like the more complete team. The fact that they have so many good dynamic offensive weapons that are playing well at the right time, but you have the veteran floor general. You have like that hungry young superstar that is budding into that guy who is kind of thirsty for that moment. And so whenever you have this combination of things, I mean, you really need to be a complete team to take down somebody like that. And the Mavs, I think they're a couple of things away from me saying they're complete.
Anthony Edwards has that look in his eye that he wants to be the best player in the world now. He wants to be the best player in the world right now. And
he's got that Michael Jordan looking at a craps table.
Throwing a coin against a wall.
Right.
Yeah, they do, and it's one thing that they're going to need to do as a team is shoot the ball well, and it's encouraging to see they go down 3-2 after winning the first 2 games against Denver. Mm-hmm. They win Game 6, and in Game 7, Anthony Edwards shoots 2 for 10 from 3, 6 from 24 from the field, and they're still able to win the game, in part because Conley and McDaniels combined to shoot 6 for 9 from 3. They're going to need stuff like that. They're going to need those 2 guys to be able to shoot. They're going to need Nikhil Alexander-Walker to shoot. They're going to need Naz Reid to continue to get looks. Those 4 guys are really their shooters. Cat can shoot threes as well. They're going to need their bigs and Jaden McDaniels and Alexander-Walker to step up and continue to shoot if there's times where Anthony Edwards, can't make a bucket. And the one thing that I love is there's no way to the only way you get out of a shooting slump is by shooting your way out of it. And any shooter always knows that. And that's what I love about Andy. He's not scared of the moment. He's not scared that I've missed my first, I think he was 0 for 5 from 3 and ended up hitting 1 or 2 big ones. He's not afraid of the moment.
He had 4 points in the first half.
Right.
4 points in the first half.
If Anthony Edwards can go 6 for 24 and your team can rally behind the fact that, hey, our superstar isn't performing, we need to close out this Game 7. I think that
on the road.
Yeah, I think that bodes really, really well for them moving forward.
And they were down 3-2 and they didn't panic like at all. I mean, you watch Ant after Game 5 and what do you say? See how motherfuckers in Game 7, like they weren't scared. And that's a scary dude to look at when you're playing in a high intensity game like that. Like, I just don't know if the Mavs are prepared to see like the eye of the ant.
Yeah, it's a bad motherfucker.
We need a better name for that.
I got my man crush Monday today on Anthony Edwards. That dude's just a fucking. How can you not like him? It's a really rare to see a guy who's as confident / cocky as him still be so likable. But
because he was awesome in that movie.
Yeah,
he was just being himself. He was literally just being himself, talking shit and being funny and backing up his shit talking with elite play. That was his character in the movie.
Could you imagine if they made that dunk last night and that he didn't get the foul? Or I forgot who fouled. Was it just Daniels that did the bounce and then tried to dunk it and they fouled him? With like
it was Jaden McDaniels with a little bit left. Yeah, I'm curious what Jokic was saying to Anthony Edwards in that moment.
He's like,
that was pretty disrespectful. But it was also weird to me how early, like there was still like 28 seconds left on the clock, and I think it was like a 7-point game. And I was surprised to see Denver just like stop fouling. Like your season's coming to an end, and you're not going to play that down to the whistle. It seemed really early for that. Granted, the odds of them winning are incredibly, incredibly low, but.
I think that's the behavior of a team that just won a championship. I think that's the behavior of like hey, we're kind of realizing y'all are the more complete team right now, and we're gonna hang it up, which I didn't really like. I agree with you. I want to see a team fight to the whistle. I thought I would expect more from Mike Malone.
Yeah, he was not happy after the game either.
Yeah,
The reporter asked him like, is it hurt extra knowing that you're up 20 and lost this game? He's like, our season's over. That's what hurts. Stupid ass question or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever he said. It's like, bro, just like the dude's he asked you a good question. Does it hurt extra knowing that you were up freaking 20 in that game and blew it at home?
In the third quarter, too. Up 20 in the third quarter when you had the freaking light at the end of the tunnel. You just needed to close out and play good basketball and not fuck up. And man.
Crazy stat of the day, actually, real quick. Sorry, AJ. No team had come back from greater than an 11-point deficit. 12-point deficit at halftime to win a game. No team in NBA history.
Woo.
Is that not insane to hear that?
That's just the NBA in 2024, though. I mean, like 20-point leads are they evaporate nowadays. I mean, absolutely evaporate. And you're like, what happened? Like, I mean, you saw it in both games. Like, just leads just disappear, and it doesn't really matter. Just because the pace is so fast and you get so many possessions in a short time. And so like 20-point games, I think, you almost got to be up by 30, 40 at this point just to make sure you win.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. A 20-point lead nowadays is how we looked at a 10-point lead in the late 90s, early 2000s, where it's like, if you have a 10, 15-point lead in halftime, you're comfortable. Nowadays, you can't even get a little bit comfortable with the 10, 15-point lead at halftime. You still have so much basketball before you even feel remotely safe. So I feel like, yes, it's the fact that teams are scoring 120 plus most nights. And it's like, we're seeing scoring just on a completely different level. And yeah, it's going to break a lot of these records because there's going to be a lot of 20-point comeback wins in playoffs moving forward.
For sure. I got a question for you guys.
Let's hear it, you bum.
I feel this playoff has been kind of annoying, really annoying actually, with all like the challenges and the way that they do it. I think like when a call happens and they turn around, they're like, hey, what do you think? And then the guy's sitting there with his iPad, and it just, I don't know. It's getting annoying for me. I don't know about you guys, but it's just like, hey,
I haven't been as annoyed with the challenges. I've been annoyed. I feel like there's been more complaining from players in this postseason than I can remember in recent memory. I just feel like as much as I enjoyed watching the Knicks play, Josh Hart complaining about every call, Luka complains about every call. I feel like Minnesota complains less than some other teams, but I just feel like everyone's been complaining, and I'm tired of watching NBA players complain. Like, just go play. The NBA is letting y'all play this year. They're letting a lot of fouls go, but they're doing it both ways. I think overall the NBA officiating's been pretty good in that respect. They're letting both teams play. Anthony Edwards got the fucking shit fouled out of him last night.
Yes.
On a drive to the basket, and that almost turned the game, especially considering they called a weak-ass moving screen right after it.
Right.
That was some bullshit. And that almost fucked them, actually.
And honestly, that's an amazing point, because I think that's just what I want is consistency. It's like if you're gonna let him foul, let him foul. But if you're gonna call little ticky-tacky moving screens and shit like that, then let that be known. But when we're seeing just vast inconsistencies, that's an issue.
Well, hey guys, before we go, I want to get complete predictions for these series. I need firm predictions so that whenever we're wrong as shit, we can look. Yeah, I see AJ. We can look back at this and be like, "Ooh, I was off."
Oh, you mean
on that?
You mean like last year when we all went 1, 2, 3 Bucks?
Oh man!
Oh wow!
I'm gonna lead it off though. I'm gonna lead it off on that. I'm gonna say Mavs. I'm sorry. Ooh, whoops.
Whoa! What conversation did we just have?
Wolves in 6, Celtics in 7. think Pacers are going to take them to 7 games.
See, I'm going the exact opposite with you. I think I'm going Boston in 6, Minnesota in 7.
Okay. AJ, you have to answer this.
Yeah, I'm going to go Pacers in 6, and I'm going to go T-Wolves in 5.
Damn.
Nice, bold of you.
Pacers in 6.
You're back on the Spurs bandwagon. Wait, did you say Pacers in 6?
He said Pacers in 6.
Pacers in 6, yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they're going to steal one in Boston. They might steal the first game.
Pacers in 6? All right. Interesting. So Porzingis didn't play in the whole series.
We're gonna clip it and see how TikTok feels about it.
I have a huge fan base in Indiana. They love me out there. They're like, dude, this kid in San Antonio is pretty cool, man.
They've heard all of your fucking sucking up to Caitlin Clark, and it must be getting around.
Maybe I'm still Kelsey Plummer, man. Dude.
Oh man,
Kelsey Plum.
Yeah, big fan. Well, boys, this is enjoyable. Like we said at the beginning, it had been a long time since all three of us had hopped on, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. Definitely a different dynamic with all of us bums on here.
Your wrong opinions.
Yeah, never. But I think we need to hop back up on here probably after the first maybe 2 games or so of the respective conference finals, and we'll see how AJ's early prediction is looking of the Pacers winning the series.
I got a suggestion for us after the postseason stuff. We should have a all Spurs draft where we pick like 6 or 7 people, and we just see how our teams stack up against each other. All time
Spurs players.
Well, what I can do is I
get first pick.
Well, what I can do is I can put those teams into 2K and run a simulator.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just make sure I get Tim Duncan, and then I'm good.
Well, if you win the lottery, if you win the draft lottery,
dude, I'm going Matt Bonner first round,
bro. That's an IQ pick right there.
I'm gonna go Twin Towers, but rather than Tim Duncan and David Robinson, I'm gonna stack him with Mang Batir.
Oh, there we go.
It's like, give me Andrew Gaze at the 2.
See, when you said Twin Towers, I thought of Beno Udrih and Nando DiColo.
Oh man, I think I was actually more so thinking of J.R. Reed.
Oh my goodness,
J.R. Reed and Terry Cummings. Actually,
I have both their autographs.
Antoine Carr was a great
and now you have Steve Kerr's autograph thanks to me.
I do.
Is that what I gave you? Did I give you a Steve Kerr?
You did. I appreciate
it. Future head coach of the Spurs, Steve Kerr.
That could happen. But guys,
contracts end around the same time, and Wemby will be in his prime.
Yeah, we'll see.
And Steph will not be around.
That would be an interesting come to circle moment for San Antonio fans. That would be very, very interesting. But damn, guys, I think that was a good episode. We got to talk about some Game 7s. We got to talk about the upcoming Western Conference Finals, Eastern Conference Finals matchup. I'm feeling solid about that.
Yeah, that was a good ep.
Absolutely.
That was good to be back, and I'm looking forward to hopping back up here in a few days and talking to you guys again.
Absolutely. And we're going to end it like we always do, guys, and that's Go
Spurs, go. Yeah, that was too fast.
Lag. But you know what? We're going to let the theme music play us out.